today we're back out here working on the old 92 F-150. We got some brake issues. I got leaky wheel cylinders in the back, and I've got a brake pulsation. Like when I go to hit the brakes, they feel funny. When I'm driving down the road, the whole truck kind of shudders around like it's on the brakes a little bit. I will start out with getting the hood open. Alright, now we got the hood open. I'll take you over here to where I think my problem is. See, right here is your brake master cylinder. There's plungers in there. When you push the brake pedal, it pushes plungers forward, squeezes fluid out of here through those lines, and clamps your brakes down for you. Behind it, this is your brake booster. What this is it's a big giant rubber diaphragm in there. See, this hose runs off of your manifold on the engine. There's engine vacuum pressure on this side. So there's a vacuum pulled on one half of the booster, and on the other half there's atmosphere pressure. So there's that 14 pounds or 12 pounds or whatever it is, 14.7 foot-pounds of pressure on that side. And what that does is makes it easy, so when you push on the brake pedal, this thing is helping you push on the master cylinder. So I think where my pulsating is coming from, I have a lot of rust all down the front of the brake booster. That's a good sign that my master cylinder has been leaking brake fluid past its back seals and all over the face of that. And this thing has like a big tube in the center of it where the little push rod comes in and out. You'll see here in a minute. And that collects that brake fluid, and it'll make it run down into the master cylinder. And I had happen on this truck here the same thing. If that is the problem, I had the same thing over there happen, where there's rusty fellers and stuff causing problems on the front end, and it made it where the booster was applying like all the time. So even when I didn't touch the brake pedal, the brakes were partially applied. Alright, now here's the new parts. So this is my new brake booster, and there's the new master cylinder. And no, these definitely didn't come painted. When you buy new parts like this from the auto parts store, when you buy any new part really that's metal, they come as like bare metal. I think the master cylinder might be aluminum housing or whatever, but I know the brake booster is steel. And when you get this thing from the auto parts store, it's like stripped of all its paint, and then it just has nothing on it when they give it to you. So if you don't paint it with something, it's going to get really rusty and crusty and nasty. So I was thinking I might as well, since I have to at least shoot it with the coat of primer anyway, I might as well make it all pretty. So I got a little color contrast going on under the hood. I'll have bright, pretty Ford blue sort of kind of tone, and then the black master cylinder. I think looks cool because it's got a black cap on it. If you guys are planning on doing something like this, I'd recommend you put a couple coats of primer on them, at least, you know what I mean? If you don't care what it looks like under the hood, but you definitely don't want your new parts rusting away really quickly. So now we'll come on over here and we'll start unhooking things. We'll need to take our vacuum line off. We need to take our brake fittings, our brake line fittings loose here. Unplug this connector, and then we've just got 2 bolts to take this master cylinder off. When we take that off, then we can go on the inside of the truck and unbolt, see right here, unbolt the 4 bolts on the back side of the booster. close cut. Since we're replacing the master cylinder and the brake booster, there's really no sense in taking these bolts loose, except for maybe later when we want to see how nasty and the carnage inside there. But for right now, for the sake of getting done, we'll just leave that together, and we'll go to the inside and take out the 4 mounting bolts holding the brake booster in. That and unhook the linkage from your brake pedal to the booster. Alright, the next place you're going to go is in here. See, there's your brake pedal, and you can follow that up. Right here is the linkage to the booster. This is your brake light switch. I think I can pull this pin here, and then the brake light switch and the brake lever will come loose from our arm right here. Now here's a little washer. And after you pull that washer off, we can slide the linkage to the booster, and the brake light switch comes off at the same time here. See? So we can just set this down to the side. Now our pedal is loose from the booster. All we have to do is come in here. You'll pull this little shield out of the way, and then there's these 4 bolts around the edges in here. We need to pop this little clamp off that holds this wire that used to hold this hose. And then we'll take these 4 bolts loose, and then we can pull that out the front. Then when you get all the bolts out, all the nuts off, then it'll look like that. And now that the 4 nuts are loose and we're free of the pedal, we can go to the front. What it looks like when there's just a big hole there. Here's the crusty old master cylinder booster setup. All we need to do here is we need to take this out. I think that's a metering block or something like that, but that needs to go in the new master cylinder, and we're gonna have to reuse our nuts here. If you can't tell, she's been leaking a lot of fluid all over the place here. Now we'll pull this off and see how bad it looks in here. See all the crusties? The crusties and the rusties? That's from brake fluid seeping past. That's a big piston right there. The brake fluid has been leaking past that piston and then running into this area here. And that is just really, really nasty, filled up with rust and whatever that, I guess, oxidation off of the aluminum there. And then all that rust transfers inside of here and just messes everything up in there. All the little rubber seals and stuff, there's a big diaphragm in there, and when you get all that rust and crust in there, it just makes things leak in all sorts of places. See how we ain't got a whole lot of paint left here. So now we get to move on to putting things back in the truck. But first, we gotta wash our hands, because the new parts are painted and pretty and not covered in bleh. See? Much better. Now that we've got our new booster in, and we've got all 4 of our mounting bolts tightened, and those were at 9/16, and you'll need a deep well socket for that. If you don't have a deep well socket, a ratcheting wrench will work. But a deep well socket would be better. So now we're ready to hook our brake pedal back to the arm back here. So we'll have to take our brake light switch. Make sure this is pointed in the up direction here like it was before. Get the little washer here pulled over in place and keep this right flush with the end. And then you can take this switch with the open side and come up here and go up on the outside of that bushing. And then you'll fit right over just like beautiful. Then you come back with this little plastic washer and then our clip. And now your brake pedal and brake light switch are securely attached back to the brake booster arm. Woohoo! And now we can come back out here to this side. We're going to go over to our master cylinder. Now we're going to come over here to our new master cylinder, and it says in our directions that we're going to put these plugs in and leave them in nice and tight, and we're going to put fluid in the reservoir, fill it up. Then we're going to take a blunt object or a screwdriver handle or something, and we're going to pump this piston back here. It said about 3/4 to 1 inch strokes, so not very far, just pump it in a little bit. It said in the directions now several times until the plunger, the piston gets hard to push in and it only moves about 1/8 inch, and then we install it on the brake booster and remove one plug at a time and reinstall our brake lines and put this little guy back in. Regulator or something or another thing. I'm not sure what it does, but I bet it's important. Now I've got a screwdriver fitting here that I flipped around backwards. So we have this nice soft blunt edge and we won't accidentally stab a hole through the end of our piston. There we go. See, it takes a considerable amount of force, but you can tell how it pushes in so far so easy until you have to push harder, and then you work it a few times and then it gets a lot of resistance, and then don't push past that anymore, just move on to installing to the brake booster. You probably won't have to, but if you have excessive play in your brake pedal, there's an adjustment here. See, this nut head screws in and out of that shaft to make up for play between it and the back of your piston here, but mine feels like it's right where it should be, which is probably where most of them are going to be, because I can put it all the way on there and just barely feel that it's touching. So it's like making contact all the time. You don't want it to you don't want it to reach out and touch it. You want it to always be touching it. Okay, now that we're done up there at the front of the truck for now, we're back here on the rear end, and we've got to take these drums off so we can get inside there and replace this wheel cylinder, because they leak a whole lot, don't they, Muffin? If you get a chance to run across this nifty little set of brake tools, if you have drum brakes anyway, these things are absolutely awesome. These three little tools save so much time and so much effort. I think I got these from a yard sale or something. But but I gotta plug O'Reilly's Auto Parts in this video, so I think you can get these there. But they hooked me up earlier. I was going there to get a piece of clear hose to come off of our bleeder screw here after everything's installed. I was going to show you guys what's up with bleeding some brakes and using a clear hose running into a soda bottle, and they showed me for like 10 bucks up there. They had this really cool little bleeding kit that I'll show you here in a little bit after these wheel cylinders are in. So now we'll move back here and see, I've just pulled this plug out of that hole there. The brake drum won't pull right off right now, so I need to get in here and turn this star wheel, and turning the star wheel is going to move the brake drums in. As long as you turn it the right way. You can turn it the other way and it'll move them out. So you stick it right in the hole here, and then you'll feel it run into the side of the wheel. Use the top of the hole as leverage. It's a little dirty in there. Not too bad, just good and thoroughly rinsed with brake fluid. We'll spray some of that out, and now we're going to come in and use our little de-springing tool. And we're going to take these springs off this front, this top pin here, and that'll relieve the tension on the top of these pads, where they'll move outward enough that we can take the brake line and the mounting bolt loose from this guy and pull it out of the way and put the new one in. And we've got to clean this up a little bit. We need to take this brake line loose, and we need to take these two big crusty mounting bolts loose. And then just like that, you have removed your old wheel cylinder. And there is fluid all over yourself to prove it. Now we'll take both of our pushy thingies and push them into it at the same time. And we have our little feet right here. They fit into grooves on these brake shoes. Get in the grooves on your brake shoes. Now we've got those right where they need to be. we can come back to the back side here and secure our mounting bolts back in place. We can come over here and reattach our cable, and then this spring, and then that spring, just the opposite of the way they came off. Now you just make sure to look over everything, see that all the springs are seated down all the way, the cable's running across everything evenly, you're not behind any of these tabs, the wheel's in place well at both sides, the spring's in all the way, everything moves like it's supposed to move. Now that we've got the inside of our drum's braking surface all cleaned up, we can reinstall the drum. And then after you have the drum in place, you can get it where it seats all the way down and move it back and forth, and you can readjust that star wheel until you just barely can hear the brake shoes dragging against the drum, and then you turn it back the other way just a tooth or two. So you have the brake shoes real close to the edge of the drum but not touching it. Okay, now that we've got the drum reinstalled and our star wheel is adjusted back out the way we like it, we just need to take our dust cover plug here, pop it back into place, and then repeat the same thing on the other side. And then I'll meet you guys back over here to start bleeding the brakes. Give you a before and after here on my nasty wheel. All that brake dust and brake fluid stuck to it. We'll see what I can do with it. Okay, this is the inside of my wheel after vigorously cleaning with the oven cleaner and a scouring pad and the spray nozzle on the garden hose. See, I got way up in here where the wheel gets real tight together there. There was a bunch of dirt and mud all around that edge, and that'll sure make things really unbalanced. So this wheel is probably a lot more balanced than it has been. Not too bad. Now we can put it back on the truck, lower this corner, and move to the other side. Woo! Yeah! Alright. Now we've got our we're done on both sides, installing our new wheel cylinders. Our hydraulic system is all closed back up, and now we're ready to start bleeding. Now I went to O'Reilly's, and I told the dude I needed a piece of clear hose, and he pointed me to this this neat little kit here. See my bottle hanging? It's got a little magnet, and there's a hose in here. There's a hose that runs down to the bottom. You see I've got a little, maybe you can see it, there you go. You see I got a little brake fluid down there, and I'm going to try to bleed these brakes by myself here because Missy's not home yet, I think what I'll be able to do is come on over. See, I got this thing hooked up to my my bleeder valve, and it's got like this weird little, the hose doesn't quite like fit over the bleeder valve, but it's got these little tips in here, and the tip fits inside the bleeder valve, and I was worried it's just gonna blow out of there, so I put a little tape on it. Maybe that'll hold it in place long enough to keep everything good. But I'm gonna try to just open this and leave it open and go up there and run the brakes a few times. And I think with the this end staying in the fluid, I think I'll be able to work the fluid back and forth and you know, on and off the brake, and be getting my bubbles out without letting air back in when I let off the brake. That's why I started out with some in here, so we'll try that out and see how it works. Okay, now we got you over here pointed at the bottle. I'll go start pumping the brakes, and y'all let me know if you see any bubbles. And if you do see any bubbles, let me know when they stop. Woohoo! Now we got the back wheels back on it. All four brakes are bled. All the gunk is cleaned out of the back wheels. Got a new master cylinder and a brake booster. And I don't remember if I gave you guys this tip earlier, but if you are ever buying a new master cylinder for one of these trucks, they have like two options up there. You can do like I did here and get the master cylinder and the reservoir together in one piece. Do that. The other option is you can get a master cylinder by itself, and you need to take your old reservoir off your old master cylinder and stick it back on this one. And let me tell you from experience that when you do that, they never click in place very well. This plastic down here at the bottom tries to just bend and mold out of the way instead of clunking down into place like it needs to, and that's why we've had zip ties on this one for like the past several years, because that was the only way to make the reservoir not leak on the master cylinder. So do yourself a favor, spend the extra couple of dollars. Do not mess with putting a reservoir on and off that little master cylinder. It's only like $5 or $10 more. Trust me, it'll save you like hours of headache. And it'll save you a bunch of zip ties too, because you know they don't last forever. I've had to replace these a couple times. Now that about wraps it up here for the install. It's time for me to go inside and get a shower real bad, and then we'll go for a test drive. Alrighty, we've made it back from our test drive. Everything worked out good with the new brakes, the new brake installs, all the new installs, the master cylinders and the brake boosters and the wheel cylinders, and things are definitely performing a lot better now. I've had a vacuum leak before, it seems like, and the motor runs smoother and idles lower and idles smoother and starts a little bit better in the morning. Definitely was a successful install there with my new parts and stuff, and that definitely took care of the problems I was having with my shuddery, iffy brakes and only stopping on the front end. Now I bet we get a lot better gas mileage with the brakes not helping all the time when I don't need the brakes to help. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you making it all the way this far in the video. Comment, like, and subscribe and all that fun YouTuber stuff, and y'all have a great day. Night. Right, buddy? Right?